Glaive Prime is the ultimate weapon in the glaive category so far. This many-bladed disc can be thrown and detonates with incredible power. Question is then, how do you unleash that power? I'm the Engineer, let's solve a practical problem. Glaive Prime is not like other glaives, and I don't mean that it's a prime. Glaive Prime has one of the most valuable and sought after features in the entire game, and that is that it has the ability to guarantee slash procs when you use it right. This, coupled with a very high damage stat, means Glaive Prime can inflict huge amounts of true damage via these slash procs, ignoring armor entirely. How it works is that if an enemy is directly struck by Glaive Prime when it's thrown, or if they're struck by the area of effect from Glaive Prime being manually detonated mid-fight, they receive a slash proc. There is one tiny caveat to that I'll cover later, but it's so tiny that it can wait right now. The direct hit of Glaive Prime isn't the damage we're looking for, however. Even with combo scaling mods like Blood Rush, it's just not going to deliver the hurt we need to get the most out of it. And that is for the simple fact that throwing the glaive and waiting for it to bounce around semi-random targets is just too slow. This means we want to build it for a heavy attack approach. Because of this, some glaive specific mods are of no use to us. Quick return for fewer bounces is pointless, we're heavy attacking to bring the glaive back already. Rebound is pointless as we don't need more bounces. Volatile rebound is useless as we don't need bounce explosions, as those don't deal slash procs. Power throw is no good to us as it relies on consecutive throws, but this is cancelled by heavy attacks so we never actually get the bonus. Combo Fury offers to take up a mod slot to make our secondary have more magazine and reload speed, which is a tiny benefit at the expense of any mod that actually make the glaive better. And as we're going for heavy attacks, Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds are no good to us either. With the not useful mods out of the way, let's look at the useful ones then. Corrupt Charge gives us a 30 initial combo, which grants a minimum 2 times combo bonus. Heavy attack damage scales with combo, but also consumes it, so this gives us double damage without having to build up combo, and then it recharges that double damage pretty quickly. The next mod, Killing Blow, speeds up the throw animation and increases the damage of the heavy attack detonation by 120%. That's no small amount, so this is a must-have mod. As Glaive Prime is a crit focused weapon, we can use Sacrificial Steel for a 440% crit chance buff on heavy attacks. Pairing this with Gladiator Might, the set effect is of almost no concern here, but the crit damage bonus is a very significant one, and then we add on Organ Shatter or Amalgam Organ Shatter to round off the critical damage. Normal Organ Shatter has a lower cost to use, it's easier to get, and has a marginally higher crit damage bonus, whereas the Amalgam version trades off a very small amount of this crit damage for a small increase to the throw animation speed. The difference between these two mods is honestly rather small, so it's just a matter of preference. For our pure damage mod, you can go Primed Pressure Point if you're just doing glaive heavy attacks, or Condition Overload if you're using a secondary weapon to seed status effects on targets first. As glaives can be dual wielded with secondary weapons for exactly this purpose, it's a good way to get yourself some more damage. However, in my experience, you don't actually require that setup for the extra damage in pretty much all missions, so you can get away with using heavy attacks on their own for the most part. Volatile Quick Return is a glaive specific mod which causes explosions on bounce, reduces the number of bounces, and adds range to the explosion radius. As I've already mentioned, the bounce explosion isn't that valuable in terms of slash procs, in that it doesn't give us any, but it is still viable damage against weaker or unarmoured enemies. Likewise, the reduced bounces is meaningless to us. What's crucial on this mod then is the range increase. It affects both the bounce and heavy attack explosion, increasing the range from 4.8 meters to 7.8 meters, which is a roughly 160% increase in the area that is covered. This allows you to affect a lot more enemies at the same time, and therefore it's a crucial mod to be using. Critically, the heavy attack from Glaive Prime has no damage fall off, dealing max damage out to its farthest range. So by adding on to the range that we've got on this explosion, you are massively increasing the damage you can put out there. The bounce explosions don't have this same benefit as they do have damage fall off, but the added range still helps them out. The last mod slot then is the so-called flex slot. For faction specific builds, you can choose to use Prime Smite to match your faction, especially against the Grineer. This will substantially increase the power of your slash procs. If you'd rather an all-rounder build, like the one that I use, I'd suggest using Primed Fever Strike. This doesn't make your slash any stronger, but it does increase the direct hit damage, the bounce explosion damage, and the heavy attack explosion damage. In addition, it allows you to inflict toxin procs, which are stronger than the slash procs against unarmoured targets. This isn't as powerful against the Grineer, but it helps in dealing more damage to the corpus and can help bypass the more strongly shielded enemies. If you lack the primed version of either of these mods, the standard will suffice, though of course it will be a lot weaker. With all of this put together, your final build should be looking something like this, and it's just a case of throw and detonate. Or shoot, throw, detonate if you want to use the extra status effects from a secondary. Let's also look at the other bits and pieces that go around making your melee work. For your operator focus score, for once it's entirely your choice. With no combo to worry about, there's no need for Naramon. You may find that if you attack very quickly with Glaive Prime, or more so if you're using the Amalgam Organ Shatter, you end up making attacks too fast for Corrupt Charge to recharge your combo back to 2 times. If you find this happening to you, use the Xeneric focus for the heavy attack efficiency, as this vastly reduces the time it takes to get back to 2 times combo, and ensures you'll always be hitting with full damage. If you're fighting just a little bit slower, especially if you're using just the standard Organ Shatter, this won't be an issue for you. In terms of Rivens, you need to have one with a stat to replace an existing mod, if you're going for a Riven. The 2 most useful stats for that then will be Crit Damage, to replace Gladiator Might, or Initial Combo to replace Corrupt Charge. The other positive stats to support this then would be Crit Chance, Pure Damage, Toxin Damage, or a Smite aspect such as plus damage to Grineer. Ideal negatives would include things like minus impact or minus puncture, minus critical chance on slide as you won't be slide attacking, minus combo count chance, minus heavy attack efficiency if you're not using Xeneric, or minus range. Minus range isn't an issue for Glaive Prime, as range has no effect on the explosion radius. The only thing that affects that is volatile quick return. Lastly, I mentioned early on the video that there is a tiny caveat to Glaive Prime's guaranteed slash procs. The manual detonation of the glaive, so that's the heavy attack, only deals a slash proc if the enemy survives the explosion of the heavy attack itself. Normally speaking, if the enemy is dead, you don't need to care about slash procs anyway. However, for the set effect of the mecha set, and the effect of the Mark for Death ability, that missing slash proc means you're not sending it over to the nearby enemies. This can be a significant reduction to the nuking power of those 2 abilities. But in pretty much any other instance of gameplay, it doesn't matter. Just something to be aware of if you are using things like the mecha set. And that is Glaive Prime in a nutshell. Build for the heavy attack and blow your enemies away. There's no need to be messing around with building combo or heavy attack efficiency or relying on bounces. Just pull the metaphorical pin and throw. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to give it a like, and to see more as I upload it, go ahead and subscribe as well. And as always, charge throws, deal blows, and fight well, Tenno.